Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys have all enjoyed your weekend. The sun's been shining, but there was no football for Newcastle United. So let me know what you did on your first weekend without any football. There was no heading up to St James's Park. There was no heading to an away game. But there's still been loads of updates in the world of Newcastle, mostly revolving around reports and players we could potentially see join the club this summer window. I spoke about the big links to Yakuba Minta, the Gambian winger, just 18 years old. It's looking like it's pretty close for us, in fact, having our first player in through the window very, very soon. But the big news is Dominic Szobosolai. He actually played a game of football this weekend. He won the German Cup with Red Bull Leipzig. They won 2-0 against Frankfurt. He scored in the 85th minute, and he gave an interview where he spoke a little bit about his future with some positive and potentially some negative for the links to Newcastle United, so I'll come on to that later in the video. As I've said, Minty looks very close to be joining the club with his work permit on standby and potentially having a medical at the club very, very soon. There's also links with Harry Kane. In fairness, the big link with Harry Kane is that he's thought to be heading out to Madrid. Benzema's leaving, and it looks like Real Madrid want Harry Kane to come in, replace him. Alongside that, there's been talks too on whether Newcastle could be interested, could Manchester United be interested. It's a funny one, because Harry Kane, in fairness, despite Spurs having a pretty pants season, Haaland taking all the accolades for his 36 goals this season, Harry Kane scored 30. You know, he actually wasn't that far behind. And for someone who's 29 years old, 1 year left on his deal, it's thought that Kane is very keen to get out and win some trophies. Having said that, as much as going to Real Madrid is, you know, it's probably as good a chance as he'll get to win trophies, Man City aren't going to be interested in him now that Haaland's there. So then he's looking at Newcastle, Manchester United. He's got some options in England, and it's thought that he may want to stay in England because he's not far off Shearer's record. In fact, he's only 50 goals-ish off Alan Shearer's record. You'd think if he played 2-3 more years in the Premier League, it's looking like he could get there. So could Newcastle buy him and then stick him on the bench for 3 years? Or could Newcastle buy him and potentially help him and break Shearer's record, and Shearer can hand him over the trophy? I'm interested to know your thoughts on that, because I don't really want Harry Kane to beat Shearer's record. I know jokingly, if he goes off to Spain, we don't have to worry about that. But if he was going to go anywhere, Newcastle United, by the way, Harry will give you Champions League football. You're not getting that Spurs. We'll give you Champions League football. We were in a cup final last season. Can we potentially try and take him there again this season? Hopefully. And if he's scoring 30 goals, who knows? I would be interested to know your thoughts on that one. Isak's been incredible. Callum Wilson's just had the season of his life. Do we need Harry Kane? He's a pretty good striker. I think if we were going to go out and spend money this season, I'm not necessarily looking up front. And if you think Spurs wanted 150 million for him last summer, how much do they want this season, even with a year left to go? You know what the Spurs owner's like, 100 million? And that isn't the position we want to spend money in. For me, really, the positions we want to be spending it in is centre mid, maybe right mid, centre back, left back. I think striker's a position we shouldn't ignore, and to potentially bring somebody else in who can add to the Isak, Wilson, someone who can maybe play up front but also on a wing. But when Harry Kane's getting offered to you, he would certainly be a big asset to this side. So you let me know your thoughts on the Kane links down below. Would you like to see him? Is it a position you think we should be looking to sign in, or is it something that really isn't really on our priority list right now? I already spoke about Minty, the 18-year-old who looks set to sign for Newcastle. I did a video about this at the end of last week. Young lad, winger, left-footed, being thought to be the next Messi, but it's also thought that once we bring him in, that he'll go out on loan. As I say, 18 years old, currently playing over in the Danish league. It's a pretty big jump over to the Premier League, so to think that he would immediately come in, and who knows? I think this is why it's important that we are talking about this and doing this so early in the window. Because if we do bring him in, or bring anybody in, full pre-season, straight away, we are able to give them time to set in, to take part. Obviously, for someone like Minter, possibly a bit young, possibly not quite experienced enough to be thrown in to the Premier League, so a loan may likely be his best move. But why not bring him in and give him the chance, give him a bit of pre-season, and if Eddie Howe goes, actually, you know what, this kid could maybe get a bit of game time, especially with all of the football we're playing next season, even if it's cup experience, there's an option there, and that goes for all players, to be honest, for all the transfers we're hoping to bring in. Anthony Gordon actually came out at the end of the season after scoring his goal against Chelsea, which I think everyone was very happy about, and said the reason he hasn't played is because he's not had the fitness. He hasn't been fit enough to do the work Eddie Howe is putting in front of these players. And we bought him in the dying ends of the January window. I'm not saying if we'd bought him on the 1st of January that, 3-4 weeks extra training would have done it, because he's had the whole second half of the season and he's not done it. But for a full summer window, if we can get stuff over the line on the first day, 2 days, 3 days, look at Brighton. I mean, I've mentioned it in my last video, they've already got and bought João Pedro. There's other sides that have already got an agreed transfers before it's even happened. If Newcastle could go out and bring in a young'un like Minter to try and help train him up, but could also go out and bring in a Szobosolai for a £70 million release clause and just go, snap, right, it's done, he's in, let's get this guy working over this 6-8 week window and summer camp before we're heading into the season. So yeah, and also I'll add that it's good that Dan Ashworth is out there, not just looking for the right here and now, but the future as well. The next 3, 4, 5 years, he'll be 22, 23. Now he's not worth the 7 million we are reportedly paying for him. He's worth 30, 40, 50. And if he fits into the side at that point, great. If not, we've potentially made a big profit off a player that we could move on somewhere else. So it's great that we're thinking for the future, but I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about the fact that we've just finished top 3 Champions League. Our spend available this summer has just shot through the roof, within reason. And I want to see us go out and be proactive, a little bit aggressive this window. Go out there and go, you know what, fine, there it is, there's the money. First 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks of this window, we are actively trying to get deals done quickly so we can start preparing for next season. Eddie Howe has spoken on the fact that he effectively wants 2 sides available to him for next season. Last season, we were barely using more than the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players in the whole season. And now Eddie Howe is talking about wanting 2 full squads. You think we play with 3 centre midfielders? You think about, that's the thing with the difference with the strikers. We only really play with 1 striker at a time. Yes, Isak's kind of played out on the left, but it's either Wilson or Isak. I think it would be good to have another player who could also help complement that. But would Kane be... Do we need a Kane when we've got an Isak and a Wilson? I mean, the answer is yes, because Kane's a good player, but at the same time, it's not really where we're going with this side. We're buying young and building them up. Kane would be a bit of an outside of that kind of programme that we're dealing with. But centre midfielders, we play with 3. And Eddie Howe wants 2 sides. So that would mean he would want 6. Bruno, Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff, that's 4. Anderson, 5. But I'm thinking he wants 2. I'm thinking 2 midfielders, and one of the ones we've been linked with, as I've mentioned, is Dominic Szobosolai. Now, he's actually come out and done an interview and spoken a little bit about his future. He's actually been reprimanded. He's actually been told off and fined because he come out and was so openly talking about the fact that he wants to basically move on and continue his journey at another club and look for a new challenge. So he's not shy, even at the age of just 22. I mean, he's already the captain of his country. He's the captain of Hungary. He's who's already very happy to speak his mind and obviously knows what he wants for his future. So he came out and said pretty much that he's looking for a move away, which I think in the world of Newcastle is good for us. Lots of talk on the move to a Premier League side to play for one of the teams in Europe, which is also us. But specifically in his interview, he actually spoke about our best mate Jurgen Klopp, playing under him, playing under Pep Guardiola, playing under Jose Mourinho, kind of actively mentioning, I suppose, managers who have quite a high reputation, which maybe Eddie Howe doesn't quite have yet, although we know what a great job he's done this season and that he should have got manager of the season. So yeah, they were kind of mentioned, but in the terms of the Liverpool group, I mean, they're not in Champions League, we are. In terms of Pep Guardiola and Man City, well, they've not even been linked with them. He is a fantastic player, and I'm sure Man City would be listening, but I'm not sure that's the player that they're quite after at the moment. So really, he's named people that weren't us, which is probably not great. But at the same time, it's still talking about Premier League moves. It's still talking about playing for teams in Europe. And it's still looking likely that he will move. And there's plenty of reports saying that he would be open to Newcastle United as well. So there's a bit of something there. There's a bit of positive in that he does want to move. He does want to get away. And if he is, then I think we will be a team who is in the forefront to try and take the signature. As I mentioned, it's a release clause. So that's what it comes down to, is what team's willing to pay it. And for a guy like him, I'd be tempted to just throw our hat in the ring pretty quick. I know 60, 70 million to go right day one. We've already slashed potentially, a third or a quarter, depending on what the budget is going to be. But to do it quick, to get it in there and have him through the door, just gets the ball rolling. We spent an entire January window and still paid 45 million for Gordon, which I don't think's way over the odds. I think maybe 30, 35 would have been more correct. But if we're going to spend an entire summer window and then pay 60, 70 million for somebody anyway, maybe we should just be getting in there as quick as we can and trying to get a deal done for a player like him done as quickly as we can. And as I've mentioned, if Eddie Howe wants two squads, that doesn't even necessarily mean that's the end of it either. James Maddison is still being linked at this point. He also has a year left on his deal, similar to Harry Kane. He's 26 years old, so still a little bit older, but he carries the Premier League experience. I mentioned this in the video the other day when we talk about the likes of Murphy playing above themselves, so confident. You play like Almiron, who was playing so great. It's just dipped a little bit, and I think someone like James Maddison he's got all the confidence in the world. I honestly think if we brought him in, he would instantly just complement where we are. Always going to be up there in terms of numbers. I mean, Szobosolai, I think he's scored 10 goals in each of the last 2 seasons. You think about our centre midfielders, Longstaff, even Bruno and Joe. We don't have loads of numbers coming from midfield. So I think that's something that would really help. I think Maddison is another player who will add numbers in a relegated side. Has still got loads of goal contributions this season. And I think if we could bring in potentially a pair of them, what's Maddison going to be this summer? You think Leicester wanted 60, 70 last time? They're relegated this time. He's on a bumper contract that they want to get rid of. He's only got a year left. 35, 40? Or is that me being too hopeful? It depends what other clubs are interested in as well. But you let me know your thoughts on the midfield situation. Would you take Harry Kane? Is that something that you are actually would think about? Great to see that young lads are coming in, but I think the main one right now is centre midfield. Maddison, Szobosolai, who looks keen to leave Leipzig. Could Newcastle be his destination? You let me know your thoughts about that and on his update. Does it worry you that he's mentioned other clubs and not Newcastle? Or is it the fact that Newcastle are Champions League competitive or a team that will pay the money? Because that's the other thing as well, is that Newcastle are one of the few teams who can go, yep, 70 mil, release clause, see you at the training ground. There's not that many teams who have got the cash right now, which we do. And we're in Europe, and we're Premier League. I think it would be a good choice. But I would, because I'm a Newcastle fan. But you let me know your thoughts on that down below. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're still watching at the end of this video and you haven't done, it's free. It costs you nothing. But it notifies you guys of any future videos, which I'm sure there'll be a few of this summer. And yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll catch you later.